Morning, YouTube. You have to pardon my voice. Seems like every time I get ready to do one of these videos, my allergies start acting up. Just coincidence. I'll try not to cough my way through the video. I have had more questions than I can count about the fishing line that I use. And I decided I'm going to go ahead and do this video on it. And it's a kind of a strange story, actually, if you research all about it. But we'll start at the beginning. In 1985, Stren came out with a line they called Prime. And they claimed it was a revolutionary line. And I got to tell you, after the first time I fished it, I had to agree with them. And I've been using it ever since. The problem is that they quit making it quite a few years ago, and I'm not sure exactly when they quit making it. But when I heard that they had quit making it, it had already gotten hard to find, and I ended up Cabela's had two of these big spools, 2,000 yards left in stock, and I bought both of them. And that was back in, I really don't know. I don't know the date. I can't remember. It's been a lot of years ago, and I've been using it ever since. I've been babying it and stretching it out, but I'm almost out. I've already been through one, and this is the second one, and it's almost empty. The line has had at least 3 names that I know of. The original name was Prime, and then this stuff started getting some real bad press for some reason, and I really don't know why, because I've been fishing it since, like I said, since it came out in '85. I've never had a failure with it. You know, I mean, I've never had it just break for no reason. I've never had it break in the knots for any reason. I mean, I've broken it, but usually because a fish got into something or whatever. But I've never had it fail because there was something wrong with it. And you guys that have been with me, almost every fish you've ever seen me catch on video has been caught on this stuff. Big redfish, big trout, all kinds of stuff. And the horror stories that came out not too long after this stuff hit the market, I don't understand where it came from, but anyway, they ended up changing the name again, and they changed it to Cranking Line. And I'm not sure the date of that, but this was sometime post '85, and it may have had another name in between, but the last name it had was Stren Sensor, which is this. And some of the stuff I read, some of the complaints were that it coiled. You know, it took a set on the spool, but guess what? Anybody that's ever fished fluorocarbon, there ain't nothing much out there that takes a set worse than fluorocarbon. This is not as bad as fluorocarbon, but it'll get a little springy effect to it. But what you gain with this far outweighs any little problem like that. What Stren did was, and don't ask me how they did it, but I know it had to be some serious money involved to develop this line. This line looks and acts like fluorocarbon or monofilament. as you can see right here. I mean, it's it looks, you would never know it was anything different just by looking at it. And but the whole, what made this line revolutionary, in my opinion, was the fact that dead through the center of this line, they put a thin strand of Dacron. And if you take this line, if you take it and lay it on a table or something, and you be real careful, and you can shave, it's a nylon outer shell with a thin Dacron line running through the middle of it. And guess what? Dacron doesn't stretch. The sensitivity was just like nothing I'd ever fished before. The first time I fished it, and y'all know I throw a lot of soft plastics, and I always talk about how fish hit the bait on the fall. The first time I fished this and was throwing soft plastics and twitch, and immediately when I started twitching, it felt entirely different. I mean, it was, I mean, I could just feel everything that soft plastic was doing. But when I twitch and let it fall, when a fish would hit that soft plastic on the fall, it felt like somebody reached up with their finger and just thumped the end of the rod. All the difference between night and day between this, monofilament, and fluorocarbon. The only thing that would run a race with this is braid. But with this, you don't run into all the issues that you do with braid. With the line digging into itself, you know, fishing in windy conditions with the braids blowing all over the place, and all that. This line did sink. It didn't sink as fast as like fluorocarbon sinks, but it did not float like monofilament either. So it was somewhere in between on that scale. But I got to tell you, I've had some pretty good gifts in my day. This right here is one of the best I ever received from anybody. My buddy Steve, who we used to fish a long time ago together, a whole lot, and he hasn't fished in like 10 years. He's fixing to get back into it, and you may see him in one of my future videos, but he came by the house, and we were talking and about fishing and everything, and I mentioned to him, I said, man, I said, it's sad. I said, I'm almost out of strand sensor. And he said, man, he said, I got a closet full of that stuff. I said, what? He said, yeah. He said, I stockpiled it a long time ago. And he said, I got a bunch of it in there. And he said, I'll bring you some. I said, that's great. And when he said, bring me some, he brought me 3 of these boxes. And each one of these boxes has 6 spools of line. And that was probably going to last me till I pass on. But he couldn't have filled these with money and made me any happier. I can tell you that right now. I was just dreading the day that I ran out of this stuff, just because of the sensitivity of it and the way I fish, which is strictly artificials, and especially soft plastics. It doesn't matter. I mean, with this stuff, it don't matter what kind of lure you're throwing. If a fish breathes on it, you feel it, and that's because of that that thin Dacron line they put inside of this nylon shell. So it was called a cofilament. It wasn't a copolymer, it wasn't a mono, it wasn't a fluoro, it wasn't none of that. It was a cofilament, which actually meant a line inside of a line. Back in the old days, when we didn't have any options but monofilament and throwing soft plastic and stuff, you wouldn't even know when a fish hit it until all of a sudden it got heavy, and it was this stuff just blew my mind when it came out. But like I said, it got a lot of bad press, and it was one of those kind of deals where when it started, the bad press snowballed, and they like I said, they tried to market it under several different names, starting out with Prime, then Crank-A-Line. I think there might have been something in between, but the last thing they put out was Sensor. And I mean, I would love to see Stren bring this stuff back, because I think this stuff was so far ahead of its time that it just kind of freaked people out. And if you were fishing this and a fish got into something and cut you off, sometimes, you know, if it got into a tree or got on a rock or an oyster shell or whatever, and people would bring that in and they would see that little Dacron line sticking out of the inside of it, and it freaked them out. They thought it was just terrible. But I can honestly say, in all the years, and I've been fishing it since '85, that I've never had it fail just for failing. I've had fish get into stuff. I've had treble hook baits where the fish hit it and the line got wrapped up in the hooks, and they got to thrashing around and broke you off. But that'll happen with any line. After I went to that twisted knot that I did the video on, I hadn't had any issues with treble hook baits getting wrapped up in the line and getting cut off. But anyway, like I said, I've had so many questions, and it's hard in the comment section to try to explain to somebody about this line. So I'm gonna do this video and give you all the lowdown on it. And to me, in my opinion, for whatever that's worth, it's the greatest fishing line that's ever made. Sensitive as braid, but with not any of the issues, and acts like fluoro and mono as far as casting and all that other stuff. So there you have it. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.